that. But we root for the 49ers here. At least Joe Shasky does. And he's, you know what? He's optimistic about this season, this upcoming season.
Excited.
He's excited because the cavalry is arriving. We threw the number out there, 888-957-9570. The one line that sums up the preseason now that it's over. What is it for you? For Joe Shasky, the cavalry's arriving. For me, I'm just glad it's over. But is it over? Because, we got 2 weeks to go. No Trent Williams, no Brandon Ayuk. Do you have that update? Jeremy Fowler, he updated us with he just wants to restructure his contract.
Here's the update from Jeremy Fowler, and I'll put it in layman's. Okay. Trent Williams wants to have all of the money renegotiated, and it might last into the regular season. I'm going to assume that they're going to bring him in. I don't want to argue about how much he's worth. I don't want to talk about guaranteed money. Just get him in. And the reason why they need to get him in is because Purdy was running for his life behind Colton McKivitz and Jalen Moore.
How much of a disaster would it be if there was no Trent Williams and Brandon Ayuk?
So I saw a lot of people say, if Brandon Ayuk isn't on the 49ers, they have no shot of winning the Super Bowl. I disagree on that, and we can have different opinions. I think it's much easier to get to the Super Bowl with Ayuk than without him. But I still believe that they could do it. It would be a lot harder. Things would have to change. I'd be asking a lot from some of the young guys and some of the veterans. I don't think they have a shot in hell to get to the Super Bowl with Trent Williams. And I think that you are running the risk of having so many plays on so many drives blown up. Let's just go through with no Trent Williams. Let's go through. And it's a preseason game against backups. Imagine what it's like when you're going up against Quinnen Williams for the Jets week 1.
He's a baller. By the way, did you see that Quinnen Williams interview with Jim Rome last week?
No, I missed it.
It was almost like, do you remember what Matt Harvey went on with Dan Patrick? He's like, I'm only here to talk about Qualcomm.
Yeah.
And then he just left. It was the same thing. It was whatever he was promoting. He's like, yeah, I'm only here to talk about this. And Jim's like, all right, hey, fire away, my man. We can probably find the audio. It's hilarious.
I need to hear that.
Yeah, no. It's great, but continue.
Well, so look, if there's no Trent Williams, here's a little glimpse into what happened in the game on Friday night. Again, against third stringers and second stringers for the Raiders, not against Max Crosby. Okay, I want to make that clear.
No Christian Wilkins, no Max Crosby, no Malcolm Kuntz. They're projected to be like a top 10 defensive unit on the front this year.
Third play of the game, there's a little toss to Jordan Mason, and Kittle and Willis is the backup fullback, tight end. They blow a block, and the guy goes in there, boom, tackle for loss. And on that same play, Jalen Moore also got blown up. And then on 2nd and 15 now, they're at the 31. There's a blitz on the right-hand side. McKivitz does not talk, picks up the wrong guy. This guy comes in untouched, unfree. Purdy makes a miss and then hits Mason on the sideline. It gets overturned, but Purdy's running for his life. That's 2 back-to-back plays. That could blow up the drive, all right? Mm-hmm. And then on the third play, after the challenge, it's 3rd and long, and the drive stalls out because Jalen Moore and McKivitz give up pressure. That's the first drive alone. Now, I could go on and on and on about different plays throughout the game. The interception, there was pressure on the right side on McKivitz. McKivitz is going to be, if Trent's out there, one of the weaker players. If it's Jalen Moore and McKivitz, now both bookends are soft. And so I'm looking at Purdy's, jersey, and it was green. Mm-hmm. Now, the field was chewed up and terrible, but it was your quarterback is not going to be able to have a monster season and stay upright if he's running for his life. And we all think Purdy's really good, okay? Protect him. He's got weapons. Protect him. So they got to get this Trent Williams deal done. I assume that they will. I don't want to argue about how much. I just get it done, Johnny Lynch.
I don't think he's going to be there week 1. I think he's going to pull a Chris Jones with the Chiefs like last season where you don't have, and now it was different because Kelsey was out because he was hurt, but they didn't have Chris Jones week 1, and what happened? I mean, Kadarius Toney dropped like 5 different balls, but outside of that, they lost. The Chiefs lost at home after winning the Super Bowl to the Detroit Lions, and everyone was just like, huh? Was that about the Lions? Was that about the Chiefs? But Chris Jones not being there was a huge factor. And yes, say what you will about Aaron Rodgers, Garrett Wilson, that offense, the Jets defense was still a top 10 unit last year and is unbelievable. Rob Saleh, for as much as we want to clown him as a head coach, and I think he's been kind of dealt a raw deal right there, just with all the chaos that happens. Like there's a Jets tax. You always talk about that. Like that's got to be taxing. Like they haven't had a stable head coach since Rex Ryan. And Rex Ryan wasn't even that stable. Prior to that, it was like Herm Edwards. So I think Rob Saleh is going to have these guys humming week 1. And if you don't have Trent Williams, it could be a long day. And what I do not need this season is a battered and beaten Brock Purdy. That is, It's great that he bulked up Joe Shasky. Like that he needed to do that. He's still like Drew Brees size. When Drew Brees got battered and beaten, you saw it. It took its toll towards the end here. Now that was later in his career, but even then before, look at the Niners, the shots the Niners had on that guy. You think of that, some of the battles they had against Drew Brees, like smaller stature guys still concern me. Like I'm not saying anything about the arm strength. I think his arm strength's fine. His mobility is fine. But there is something to be said about the Big Bens of the world, the Cam Newtons, like absorbing a certain amount of punishment for a whole season. Like they work well in those divisions in the AFC North, right? I need my AFC West guys to just be fine and protected.
Well, like I'm glad you brought up like the battered bodies. Like Matt Stafford is a great example. Matt Stafford is the oldest. What is he? 36? I don't even 35.
Yeah, something like that.
But if I told you he was 41, when you'd kind of like, wow.
I'd believe you actually,
right? Because
it feels
of the way like
forever,
he got punished in Detroit.
He's 36.
He's 36. Okay, and he's always hurt, right? And he's a really good player, but his body has taken a pounding.
What's the lasting image of him? I always think of him like separating his shoulder on that drive, whoever it was against. It might have been the Packers, might have been the Bears, something.
And he couldn't get up.
He's like, it's like it's separate. And then he goes back in there, he throws a touchdown, and it was one of the all-time gutty performances you'll ever see. But that's what you think about Matt Stafford, a guy that's playing hurt all the time.
Look at Jimmy G. His body has given out on him. And then obviously his confidence and seeing the field and all that, like that ruined him. Alex Smith's career was completely derailed from one shoulder injury.
His life almost too with his leg.
Well, I was talking about, you're right. I was talking about with the Niners. So,
correct.
And like I look at all of the young players that, show promise and then go down. Right now, I love Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow has been running for his life for multiple years, and he can't stay healthy.
Gets hurt a lot.
Ask a Bengal fan, and they got pretty good production from their backup quarterback last year. If they have Joe Burrow, they're in the playoffs.
Yes.
It's that simple.
I mean, I watched that performance against the Niners, and you were there in person. It might have been
incredible.
It might have been one of the greatest like throwing displays I've ever seen.
It's incredible.
Just everyone. He was humming on all cylinders. It was insane. But to your point, the no Trent Williams factor, as of right now, 2 weeks away from the regular season, I don't expect him to suit up for the San Francisco 49ers. So, I could be wrong, and we'll have any breaking news. We'll give it to you. Speaking of, we were talking about the Chiefs for a second. Juju Smith-Schuster re-signing there, by the way. So Juju is going back to the Chiefs, former Super Bowl champion.
And it'll work.
Because it always does.
Because it always does. For
Patrick Mahomes, that's another guy that like he could play a little bit hurt, but he knows when to go down.
Yes.
Like that is what he does know and knows how to do well. And I do think that's something that Purdy, the tangible thing, as you're saying, that we can expect him to get better at this year, is just going down when he need to go down.
Yeah, he has great field vision. Yes. He understands. I mean, the guy's an absolute stud. But keeping him upright is the most important. If I were to say most important thing for the whole season, keeping your quarterback healthy.
Yes.
I'm talking about just Team X.
Why do you think we know of the longtime offensive lineman coach for the New England Patriots all these years, Dante Scarnecchia? Yeah. I don't think he's there anymore. Like, I shouldn't know who that is, being a West Coaster.
Ex-Niner, Bob McKittrick.
There you go. But everyone knows him because how important was like, there was always revolving doors on those Patriots teams. And you might say, Spadoni, why do you keep bringing up those Patriots teams? Because that is a sustained level of excellence that the 49ers are trying to do now with Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy. They are not them. I am not saying they are them. But we are getting into a zone here where all that 49ers fans have come to expect is NFC Championship appearances. Sooner or later, that's going to change, either for the better and they break through the hump, or for the worse and they don't get back there and this season's a failure. So that's why I keep bringing it up, because that's the rarefied air you're going to start getting into when it comes to just keep knocking and knocking and knocking on the door. So yeah, it's something that Shanahan has done very well. It has been mixing and matching the offensive line, and it somehow always works.
Yeah.
Until it doesn't, because we saw it in the Super Bowl, and that Chiefs D-line just outplayed the 49ers offensive line. That, at the end of the day,
the margins are thin.
But that's it.
And that's why you need all hands on deck.
Correct.
Right. And that's where, I think that's the part for a lot of Niner fans that's, you're talking about like preseason. And what was the question? What is the line?
Let's throw out the one line that sums up the preseason now that it's over.
Okay.
What sums up the preseason 49ers experience for you? It could be on the field. It could be off the field.
So my buddy Rocco, diehard Niner fan.
Love Rocco.
All caps.
Rocco's Modern Life.
Uneventful. Just get to the damn regular season.
Yeah, right? That's kind of how I feel. Right? I think that's how a lot of Niners fans feel.
I agree with you.
Just hurry. I'm starting to get like FOMO almost and fear of missing out because I feel like we're so damn close, and I'm banging my hand on the table right now because we got fantasy drafts coming up, right? And before you know, we just had, oh, by the way, Bonte, thank God Bonte's not here Monday morning. It's Florida State Seminoles. Oh, God.
Ireland? Cool stadium.
Georgia Tech beating you?
I mean,
yikes.
DJ looks...
Sorry, Bonte. It's going to be a long season.
I know.
It's going to be, and I was like, thank God Sam Lubin also wasn't in because he'd be wearing all of his Miami Hurricane gear and stuff like that. But I'm sure they're going to fall on their face within week 1 or 2 because that's just what they do.
You know, here's
Cal or Stanford has a chance in the ACC this year.
Stop that. Let me give you a couple of preseason. Like, I think these are tangible things you can walk away with.
Okay.
Jordan Mason looks much more ready to contribute for the Niners now than at any other point in his tenure. He still does a couple of things. He doesn't pass protect well. There's times he goes in the wrong direction. The play action sack that Purdy took, if Mason goes to a different direction, it's a simple little dump off play. Yeah. And again, we don't know what the script does and all that. So there's little things that he messes up from time to time. But the guy's a great runner. Patience, cutbacks, power. I think even if McCaffrey were to go down for a couple games, I think you got a guy in Mason. Mason's a guy that if he doesn't come away with 500 yards this year, all-purpose yards, I think the Niners are doing it wrong. He's a guy that has to contribute. The other big takeaway, backup linebacker, Devondre Campbell, Dominic Flanagan-Fowles. Those guys aren't good. I want to go with the young guys. I want to see the combination of D. Winters, Jalen Graham, and Bethune, the kid from Florida State, the 7th rounder. Those guys are ready to play. Leonard Floyd, boy, he looks good.
He's going to be...
He looks really good.
He's always just been a consummate professional wherever he's gone, whether it's the Bears, whether it's the Rams, whether it's the Bills. The guy is a double-digit sack machine, but you just take it for granted because he's just that guy. It's just like, oh, Leonard Floyd, he's not going to be the one on your team, but that's okay. I don't need him to be on the one on this team because I got Nick Bosa, right? So I'm very much looking forward to the Leonard Floyd acquisition because last year, Randy Gregory, he's just always been just, He's never lived up to the hype, and now I guess he's retiring. I hope that guy's doing okay mentally because he signed with the Buccaneers, never showed up to any of the offseason stuff, never showed up. Hope everything's going okay with him. Chase Young, another one of those guys where it's just like, okay, a lot of hype, just not a lot of sizzle there. So, yeah, although he did show up in the Super Bowl, I'll give him credit for that. In the biggest game of the year, he did show up. Well, I'm interested to see how he does with the Saints this year because they are good defensively. Cam Jordan, I love me some Cam Jordan, but he underwhelmed. And you saw that early on in the season, like John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan was like, we need some depth here at the very least. And hopefully Leonard Floyd will bring that because Nick Bosa I'm not going to say disappointing last year. I feel like disappointing is very strong because he still had double-digit sacks last year. But coming off a DPOY performance, you wanted more from Nick Bosa.
His C season is everyone else's A-
Correct.
season.
But you're grading on the Nick Bosa curve, right?
Exactly.
So from that point, you might say you were a little disappointed. But I do think that Leonard Floyd now is going to bring out the best in Nick Bosa.
Agreed.
Maybe the best that we've seen.
And the other element that, again, I'm just looking at different formations. I think they've been very vanilla. I think Nick Sorensen's going to bring some new stuff to the table. Whatever Brandon Staley and Nick Sorensen are working on together as a combination, I think it's a much needed wrinkle to this. Like they've run kind of the same thing for 5, 6, 7 years. You got to kind of mix it up a little.
Correct.
I mean, obviously it's been working.
Yes.
This Niner defense has the potential to be top 5 again.
Absolutely. Like anytime you have a TJ Watt, a Myles Garrett, and Nick Bosa, that changes everything. And also, the one thing we really haven't been discussing this offseason is the secondary. Well, I feel like the secondary's always been their Achilles heel, and maybe, just maybe, that they found something. I mean, they're talking about Deommodore Lenoir, they're getting broken off and stuff like that. That's kind of been the conversation there, but I don't have as many concerns with Charvarius Ward and that secondary as I have in the past. I think they shut up a lot of people last year, especially in that Super Bowl where, again, the defense, they did its job for the most part. The only touchdown they allowed in regulation was off a turnover in the special teams.
The guy that I'm looking for to take the biggest leap forward in this first full season, or his second full season, Jair Brown. I think Jair Brown is going to be an absolute player for this team. He had a forced fumble in this game where he just punched the ball as he was tackling.
Dylan Laube.
He's just a stud.
Yeah.
He makes plays. He shows up around the ball. He's a sure tackler. He has a knack for getting the ball. Like we all know those guys. You know, we always talk about this. Like that guy's a knack for rebounding. You know what I mean? That guy's a knack for the big base hit. Certain defensive players have a knack for being around the ball and making things happen. He's one of those guys.
Absolutely. And another one of those those guys that did in the past. Talanoa Hufanga, who's expected to practice this week, today, hopefully. Ricky Pearsall expected to practice today. And Matt Mayoko, who covers the team for the NBC Sports Bay Area, does a hell of a job in covering the team for years. Very tapped in. He's saying right now, Joe Shasky, this could be a very busy day around the NFL. Teams with deep position groups are looking to make deals. Wink, wink, 49ers is basically what he's saying. So maybe, just maybe, we have some trades.